today I could talk about responding emotionally, at least at the start of the talk. And I think when we're thinking about responding emotionally and something that happens that triggers us, or we feel like we are right and another person is wrong, or something happens that maybe we feel a little hurt about, and when we're thinking about responding emotionally, and usually this comes up maybe not so much when someone's attacking us, but when maybe someone just makes a choice that is different than how we would choose. Because if someone's attacking us, that's usually a good time, and I'm feeling emotional about it, of I might need to not be around this person as much, or I might really should reconsider if this is someone I'm meant to spend time with. Like if someone is actively saying words that are hurtful or actively trying to make you feel worse about yourself, they are not someone that's being supportive. And people that are our friends, people that we hang out with, should be people that are supportive towards us, and most of the time lift us up and help us feel better rather than put us down. And if someone says something every now and then that might just feel a little critical, or might feel like make you feel a little self-conscious or insecure, but most of the time they're really enjoyable to hang out with, and that's something to just be discerning about, of do I want to continue to spend time with this person, do I not, and I have choice. And is it someone I generally really enjoy seeing and talking with, and am I willing to forgive the one time they said something that was a little critical, or is they more critical more often than not, and someone that I feel like I need to pull away from a little? And that is something we are all going to find by experiencing life, but willing to trust our inner guidance of, does this person most often than not lift me up and that I have really good chemistry with, or is it more often than not someone that puts me down? And if it's ever someone that I'm arguing with, or finding that I feel put down or my energy drained around them more often than not, or it's just someone I'm spending time with and giving my attention to, but really I'm not that interested or curious in getting to know them, it's then, if I'm not that interested in getting to know them, or I feel like drained most of the time, it's usually life saying, hey, you don't need to hang out with this person as much as you think, and they're actually not at a level that's able to meet the level of joy or love or well-being that you have found in yourself, and they're trying to bring you down to their level, but you don't need to be brought down to their level, because we are meant to spend time with the people that get us, the people that are able to meet us, the people that when we hang out with them, they only help us remember even how more amazing we are, or they help remind us of what an incredible person we are to be friends with. And if they're not someone that does that, or they're not someone that we feel good chemistry with, or feel interested or curious in, or feel like we can learn things from, and they more often than not pull us down or are critical, or we find we're getting in arguments with them quite a lot, then if we're finding then more of the negative, it's usually the universe it's the universe within them trying to push you away, saying, hey, your light, your love, your joy, your appreciation and interest in life is too much for this character in front of you, is too much for the person you're trying to be friends with. And maybe we work as healers, we actually more want to be their healer than their friend. And that's something to think about and say, do I want to be this person's friend, or am I trying to be this person's healer? And if I'm really just want to be this person's healer, maybe I just offer my healing services to them and see if they want to take me up on that or not, rather than being in a friendship that's unfulfilling. And if they are bringing me down, they are saying, I can't handle your love, and I'm trying to bring you down to a level of love, of kindness, of awareness, of interest that I am at. And the people we spend time with are the people that influence us and who we become more like. Even our friends, the 5 friends you spend the most time with are the 5 people who have the greatest influence, or the 5 people you spend the most time with are the 5 people that have the greatest influence in your life on who you become, because we are not individuals, we are interconnection. And when we interact with others, we are subtly passing like we are subtly passing energy, we are subtly passing information to one another. And if someone's most of the time pulls you down, you are then becoming more like them. And we should be discerning of, is this someone who I want to be more like, who's raising me up and help me remember better versions of myself? Or is this someone who's helping me remember worse versions of myself? And if there's someone that's helping me remember worse versions of myself, there's someone I should probably see a lot less or not see at all. And when we're thinking about responding emotionally, when we're responding, when something happens that bothers us, can we take it as, if I'm feeling emotionally wounded, like I'm like a part of me that's vindictive, spiteful, defensive, a part of me that feels like I need to explain why I'm right in this situation, that's usually a good sign that I'm coming from a past. I'm experiencing whatever happened in my life, whatever situation that triggered me. I'm experiencing it from a past wound rather than my conscious and awareness self. And I'm projecting that past wound onto this person, onto the situation. And I'm going to respond from that hurt rather than my loving awareness. And this is something, I'm a little bit of a fiery person. And it's something I really have been learning kind of like in 2024 and even recently, is that when things happen that trigger me, instead of responding in the moment when I'm feeling heated and emotional and a little angry about what situation didn't play out how I expected or how I wanted, or how I might not feel supported by those around me, even if they're just choosing something that was different than how I expected, but it's bringing up a past wound of I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm going to explain to you how you're wrong. Like, that energy is never going to make things better. And it's something I've learned the hard way of, when I'm feeling emotional, when people really trigger me, I need to give myself space, and I need to give myself like 5 hours, 6 hours, or maybe even a day where I take a break before I respond, because emotions cloud our mind and we end up responding from our hurt of trying to prove how we are right, rather than responding from a neutral place of what would be the most healing thing for me to say in response to this person that would be as healing for me as healing for them. And it doesn't mean we can't stand up for ourselves, and it doesn't mean we can't make people aware of our actions, but if we feel like we're coming from a subtly aggressive, subtly place of trying to prove ourselves, subtly place of I'm right and I need to show this person how I'm right, that energy, we are just going to end up over explaining ourselves, over responding, and the person will feel the emotion behind our words and their wound that they chose to listen to by either misinterpreting us, by making up ideas about us that aren't actually accurate, or just by choosing something that was a little bit more selfish than was actually supportive for the other person involved or for the group. If we respond from our wound, it will just feed the energy of their wound. And they will see our response when we responded woundedly as proof of why they deserved to choose how they chose, to misinterpret us, and when we respond woundedly, it's just going to confirm the wound that they're projecting onto us, because wounds, people, when we have emotion in our words and over explain ourselves and try and prove ourselves, people use that as, oftentimes when they're also coming from a wounded place, they use it as confirmation of how we are unstable, on how we might be crazy, or how we're not a good person. And it's something I've really learned through experience. And I've learned that when I feel heated, when I feel like I have to prove how I'm right, or feel like I need to explain to this person what they're not seeing, that I just need to take a break and allow the heat of emotion to calm down within me and go, and meditate on what is the most healing thing I can say for myself and also for this person. How can I make this person aware of their actions in a neutral and loving way? And how can I stand up for myself and not be walked over, while still remaining in the greatest sense of compassion for how others act, because we're all healing. And just because someone projects a wound onto you doesn't mean they're a bad person. You most likely were just the safest person for them to do that with. And even conscious people sometimes respond emotionally. Even conscious people sometimes project a wound every now and then. And can we be willing to be forgiving? And I think I heard someone say this line the other day, or channel this. It was Alunya Noel, if you guys are familiar with her work, and I really liked it. Of any illness and disease within our body comes from a lack of forgiveness of ourselves, or a lack of forgiveness for another person. And dis-ease or complication is created in our life a lot of the time when we're unwilling to be forgiving, or unwilling to be compassionate to how others are showing up, because we never know what kind of day someone's had. We never know what their past experiences were like, or how they were hurt or harmed in the past. And can we be willing to be forgiving, willing to be compassionate? It doesn't mean we're doormats that people get to walk all over, but if someone says something or projects a wound onto us, can we stand for what would be healing for them as much as healing for us? Because everyone is in search of greater healing, and even on a deeper level, you are them. And so we stand for the healing of yourself and others, rather than just standing for how you're right, or how you need to prove that you are right, because proving that you are right is really just coming from a subtle place of unworthiness, of feeling like you need to be accepted by others. And when they don't accept you, it brings up that unworthiness wound, which then gets transformed into righteousness, and then ends up projecting and throwing our ideas at other people. And it just creates more complication and drama in our life. And do we want to live a life of peace and healing, and where we are serving the healing of others as well as ourselves? Or do we want to live a life full of righteousness, drama, complication, and chaos? And one of those and when we're standing for the healing, we're standing for bringing greater world peace to this planet and greater consciousness to this planet. And we're standing for righteousness and trying to prove how we are right. We are creating little battles in our life that is then creating more battle and war like tendencies, and more hurt for then people to have to heal. And this kind of transitions into what I wanted to talk about with boundaries. And I think when we're thinking about setting boundaries, and I kind of did touch on this at the beginning of the talk, of when we're thinking about setting boundaries, can we set boundaries slowly? And can we really take the time to go, is this someone I really need to spend less time with? Or is this someone who just said something that rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, or said something that didn't feel so that supportive, but 90% of the time, 95% of the time, there's someone I really enjoy spending time with. And when we allow our boundaries to be set slowly, we start to become a lot more clear on our boundaries. And when we find that we're setting boundaries super quickly and then the person's responding or reacting from a place that is hurtful, a lot of the times it was because we set the boundary in a hurtful way. And when we're setting a boundary, can we give people closure? Can we explain why there's a boundary in the first place? And can we be willing, if someone does something that bothers us, but most of the time they're an incredible person to hang out with, can we be willing to give people second chances? And we all have to think of what that's going to look like in our specific situation, because different situations are going to call for different responses, and it's going to be different for your unique situation, and you will have to use your own intuition and discernment of what do I really need in this moment in regards to how this person acted, or in regards to a boundary that I'm thinking about creating. But when we move slow, we always become more clear on what the right choice is. And and one thing to be aware of is if someone's being abusive or actively attacking us, that's always a time to set a firm boundary sharply and quickly, because if they're actively attacking you, they're not in a place to listen. And if they're maybe saying subtle microaggressions more often than not, and you make them aware of it and they keep on doing it, someone to set a boundary with. If they're saying subtly things that are put downs, or subtly things that feel aggressive or make you feel worse about yourself, and you make them aware of it and they keep on doing it, probably not someone you're meant to spend time with. And the thing about boundaries is, can we be honest and direct with people? Because a big thing about having conscious relationships, whether it's friends or partners, is communicating honestly and directly. And if we're not honest and we're not direct, it usually makes the other person a lot more confused on what is happening or why there's a boundary. And it will cause more drama in our life a lot of the time. And when we're honest and direct with a person and we give them a chance to change and meet us, then and they either do or don't change, we then become more clear of what the next step is. And there is examples where maybe you don't need to give someone a chance. Like if you're in a relationship and someone cheats on you, probably just a relationship that ended in the moment that person severed their commitment to you by having sex with another person. And so it's situational. And if something happened that's minor, or you have one bad conversation with someone, or someone does something that disappoints you, or feels like they made the wrong choice and you feel like you're right, that's probably a good time to just let them know what bothered you in a neutral way. Like if you're feeling emotional, giving yourself a little bit time before you respond, and seeing how they take that feedback. And if if it's a little bit of a bigger wound where someone screams at you, or someone all of a sudden flips out at you, or does something like you're in a relationship and they cheat on you, or seriously stabs you in the back in one way or another, that's usually a time where it's just okay to set the boundary, and you don't even need to have a closure conversation with them. Right? We have closure conversations for the people that are capable of listening and hearing us, not for the people who are going to get defensive, try and defend their viewpoints, or take the closure conversation as a reason to attack us more. And when someone has ideas about us before we even are given a chance to get to know them, they're just saying, you are the safest person for me to project the wounds that I have in the past, and I'm projecting the ideas that I think keep me safe onto you, because you are a person that stands for love, stands for safety, and my subconscious mind knows you will handle this most likely better than someone who maybe is less safe or less conscious or less loving. And a lot of times as light workers, people project their pain onto us all the time, and it's the universe testing us, saying, how are you going to respond to this? Are you going to stand for the light and stand for the greatest healing in this moment? Or are you going to take the wound that this is bringing up with you, which is usually our own insecurities and unworthiness, and are you going to respond from your insecurities, unworthiness, which is a tendency to be a little less conscious? Or are you going to stand for the greatest consciousness in the moment and allow yourself to find neutrality by giving yourself a little space from this situation before you respond, and speak from a place of what is going to be healing, not just for me, but also the other person involved? And as we allow consciousness to lead the way through time and through space, and even when we're thinking about boundaries, giving people little second chances if it wasn't a major thing that happened between us, or just something that just triggered us a little, giving ourselves time and saying, is this how this person regularly shows up, or was this just them having a really bad day? And do they have bad days more often than not? Or was this just a day that, maybe it wasn't the best to see them, but overall they're a rather loving and supportive person that I still want in my life. And when we take time, we give people little second chances, and we communicate honestly and directly, we always then become clear on what the boundary is meant to look like, how much time we're meant to spend with them, or how little time we're meant to spend with them. And we end up finding that we find a lot more peace in our life through moving slowly, rather than setting boundaries sharply and then hurting other people that get blindsided by those boundaries. And I wanted to talk about one last little subject, which is people pleasing. And this kind of goes along with boundaries, of being aware of our time. And I know for me, and what I've been learning a lot lately, is like, all our time is a resource, just like money, just like who we hang out with, also a resource. And who are we wanting to give that resource to? And can we handle that resource maturely? And I've learned this recently of getting job offers. And is this job offer me? Am I taking it because I'm trying to please this other person, which I am a big people pleaser. And I am learning to not listen as much to the part of me that wants to please people, but actually listen to my inner guidance of, is this job that I'm getting offered going to help grow my passion, what I'm trying to create? For me, this is YouTube channels, working one-on-one with people as a healer or teacher. And is this job going to give that part of my life, which is really what I want to do in the long run, more life or less life? And we all have to think about, is this even if it's just resources, it's giving me enough money to make professional level YouTube videos, and maybe it takes some time that I could have made videos, but the resource of money will actually help, or it's going to pay my rent, or make me financially independent from my parents. And that is something that is worth the sacrifice of losing a little less time focusing on what I actually want to do? Or is it something that's just going to take from my passion, take from what I am actually trying to create for my life, and the sacrifice won't be worth it? Like for me, I just got offered a yoga job today, and it was far away, and it was a cool studio, but they wanted us to practice. They had a desire for the teachers to practice at the studio, and with it being so far away, and me having injuries in my body that while I can exercise some, if I overdo it, it ends up aggravating my injuries more than helping them. And I had to think, is the sacrifice of, I'll at least get to teach yoga in front of new people. And I always give talks like this at the beginning of my yoga class, and that will be something I get to share with new people. Is that sacrifice, is that gain going to be worth the tax on my body, the tax of taking time out of my day to travel to the studio, the tax of then having less time to make YouTube videos? And I thought about it and I said, it's for me that it wasn't worth the sacrifice. And it wouldn't have really fueled my passions. It would have just been taking time that I could have been practicing making YouTube videos, taking time to actually grow or rest or need what I need to then be my best self more often, to then make the best YouTube videos I can make. And we all have to be aware of, is this thing that I'm committing to taking more from my life, or is it adding to my life? And if it's affecting our well-being or affecting our wellness, or taking time away from actually what the career we actually want to do, we all have to be discerning of, how am I using my resource of time, and is there things that I really should say no to or not commit to, and I'm only wanting to commit to them because I'm trying to please the person who's hiring me, rather than it being something that's actually going to put fuel and fire to what I'm trying to create. And sometimes we need to work a 9 to 5 and just focus on our passion, which maybe that's music or art, after the 9 to 5, and the resources of money that we get from the 9 to 5 then helps us market what we want to market our career better. It helps us buy better equipment, and that's all something to think about and be aware of. But can we, instead of trying to please people or just spending time with people because they want to see us, can we go, I am going to be discerning with my resource of time, and I'm not going to give my resource of time to things that are just going to make other people happy while making me miserable, or taking away from the time that I would love to give more time to music, more time to writing, more time to practicing whatever I want to practice, or whatever career I actually would love to do in this life. And yes, we all need to make a living, and we all need to be aware of what do I need to make a living, and maybe that is working a job that isn't really our passion, but helps us have resources to create the type of career eventually that we would like to be in. And as we become more aware of our use of time, we remember that the universe never said I had to say yes to things I didn't want to say yes to. And when I trust my inner tuition, which is, how does this make me feel underneath? Does it make me feel like, how is this going to work? And I'm not really sure if this is worth the effort, or does it make me feel really excited on the opportunities this will bring to me? And can we follow what makes us feel excited, rather than what makes us feel a little overwhelmed on how we're all going to make it fit together? And the more discerning we are with our resource of time, and the more we're willing to say no to people that maybe is a cool opportunity but just doesn't feel quite right, the more we are going to find that our life flows rather seamlessly, and we have greater peace and stability in our life, rather than complication, chaos, or we start something and then have to back out of it because we didn't want to say no in the first place. And so I hope this helps. Thank you for listening. Bye.